This is Glambition Radio, episode number 243, Q&A, predictions, and cautions.
Ladies and gentlemen.
Glambition Radio.
Glambition Radio.
Glambition Radio.
Glambition Radio.
Glambition Radio.
Glambition Radio.
Welcome to Glambition Radio. I am your host, Allie Brown. I'm an entrepreneur, mentor, investor, and founder of The Trust, the modern premier network for 7- and 8-figure women leaders. I love thinking big, doing different, and exploring ideas that disrupt the status quo, especially when it comes to women, because we are creating the new models for leadership, business success, making money, and changing the world. And hey, we're doing it with style. So let's go. I love doing these solo episodes. I really found it hard to make the time in the fall. There was so much going on, but while I have some time this week, it's so great to dive into a lot of the questions that you all submitted before holiday break when I did that call out on social, and also go through a lot of my own thoughts and research and things I've collected, notes I've made over the last several months that I'd like to share with you here. This show today is a bit of a continuation of my 2021 Liberation show that I just dropped. That was episode 242. So if you haven't heard that one, I suggest you go back. You can still listen to this one now. It'll make sense, but go back to get that whole foundation, because I really talk about my own transformation through 2020 into 2021. I really break down the whole 5D ascension. If you've heard people talking about that and you don't really understand what that is, or you're like, I kind of know what it is, but I'd like to learn more, listen to that show, because I break it down for you, give you some resources too. I give the 12 gifts of 2020, which are powerful pieces of wisdom I gained from my members of the Trust in our year-end gathering on Zoom right before Christmas. And it was really, really magical, because while this has been such a crazy, turbulent time, we know who we are now. We feel the power of what we can accomplish now. And I'm recording this on Tuesday, January 5th. There are a lot of predictions coming about unrest in the country, craziness, institutions just blowing up, breaking down. And I actually am feeling so excited about all this, because we tolerated so much for so long from systems that did not work for us. And man, though, this is the quickening. Everything is being condensed, and there's a lot coming at us right now. But I hope with that show, the last episode, and this show, you're going to understand the realities, but then really feel where we're going. And there is such magic on the other side of this. I'm excited to talk to my Trust members as well next week for our first call of 2021, because I know that they're going to be sharing their big intentions for the year, and this is where we want to come from. And a reminder that this show is sponsored by The Trust. This is the new private premier network for 7- and 8-figure women entrepreneurs. We have the conversations like these. We are a bit of a different breed who are looking for something else along with the business journey. If you or another female leader you know is craving more powerful connections, more elevated conversation, and a modern platform for connecting with other high-performing women, visit jointhetrust.org. I've got a special call coming up. I'm going to be hosting an informational call. I think it's early February. We'll get you the date. But in the meantime, you can go to jointhetrust.org, and we'll let you know for sure. If you enter your information there, we'll get you all the details. Okay? Now, I'm going to start off by sharing something I received from Alan Weiss, who, if you're in the consulting or coaching space, you should definitely check his stuff out. It's ALANWEISS.com. He sent out a piece talking about the coming business renaissance. And I was like, oh, this is interesting. He has interesting stuff. I like his stuff. It's a little more high concept than the average. And I'm reading this to you and also sharing with you that he has an upcoming live stream on January 15th. We'll put the link in the show notes. It should be very interesting to listen to. But he says there's a business rebirth approaching probably in the late first quarter or second quarter of 2021 globally. The indicators are all around us. Stock markets continuing to rise, full of confidence. Stimulus packages will be coming with bipartisan support in the U.S. COVID vaccines will be in increasing supply, and the mere perception of their presence will boost confidence for people to make moves. The recent surge of illness should have passed. We'll see. Small businesses will begin investing again. Unemployment will fall. There'll be release of pent-up needs such as vacation travel, entertainment, and exercise. Home sales continue to rise as people move out of urban centers. Significant business contracts, such as orders currently in place for Boeing's now approved 737 MAX, will increase as business risk is mitigated. New businesses and startups will proliferate to fill the voids left by unsuccessful enterprises. And that's a bit of what he wrote just in the copy talking about the webinar he's going to host. And it really piqued my interest and was great to see something positive, because when you look back in history through any time such as this one, that there was turbulence, where things tanked, where things were thrown at us, we recovered. And some people during that recovery created the best fortunes of their lives. Now, Amazon aside, Walmart aside, Costco aside, right? There's a lot of anger about the big businesses reaping all the benefits right now. The small benefits are coming for the small business owner, the entrepreneurs, the creative thinkers. The opportunities are coming. There are forthcoming business opportunities. So I'm going to tag on this a bit and talk about some things that I see, some observations, as well as, it's interesting, I was making a list of every caution or concern I had, but every one of those truly could be flipped into a very clear opportunity for people. So this is not an exhaustive list by any means, but it's just some things I think you'll really find interesting. So, Alan mentioned that the businesses and startups will fill the voids by unsuccessful enterprises. And I'm going to add entire institutions, entire industries, because what's mostly on my mind right now is education. And a lot of the women in my group, as I shared in the last episode, are deciding to homeschool. And I don't mean them being in school but at home on devices. I mean pulling them out saying, I'm not doing this. This does not work for us. And suddenly realizing they can do it themselves. And then some of them realizing, this isn't that hard. I don't know if it's going to be their best academic year, but it's working. It's kind of messy, but it's working for us. So it's going to be something that will never be the same, because more people are homeschooling more than ever. More people are realizing that it never quite worked anyway. We tolerated a lot of things about the school systems and things that we were like, oh, well, that's just how it is, right? There's no toleration now, because it's gotten to such an extreme that many parents are saying, well, I don't think this is great for my child. It also doesn't work for us. Let's look at the other options. We never even looked at other options. Another institution, entire industry I feel is going to be disrupted is healthcare. Senior care, holistic care. I see a resurged interest in wellness and immunity, which, by the way, you're not hearing a single thing on from mainstream media. And immunity is everything. Everything. If you have any type of business that helps people stay well and their immune system strong, that's going to be in huge, huge demand. I see holistic care being just blown up in a good way, a big way. Wellness, related education, supplements, services along those lines. I just see that that's an institution that's going to be completely revamped, because when you look at healthcare right now, I don't know a lot about healthcare that's really about keeping you healthy. On a more personal, spiritual level, especially for those of you who are coaches or consultants or guides in a way, people are currently seeking teachers and guides more than ever to help them navigate through these transitions. And I don't just mean professionally or business-wise. I mean also very personally. People are going through dramatic personal crises right now, a lot of transformation, a lot of crisis of meaning in their lives, a lot of mental health issues, mental wellness issues. And people are seeking coaches, therapists, people to help them navigate through this. On the higher end, people are looking for advice, tapping into the new 5D consciousness. They're excited about this. What is this? How do I tap into this? And there's some people who have known about this for years. Apparently this was coming. I kind of knew, but didn't really understand until this year. I'm like, wow, I really get this. And again, go back to the previous episode if you'd like more of a primer. And then you could tell people it's brand new. God bless them. I was on some post that, I saw someone in the comments saying, now, will my pets be ascending with me? I'm just like, it's actually a good question. I don't know. But they seem to think they were like leaving the planet. You're not going to leave the planet. But there's this new power, this amazing place that you can be in your heart, in your body, in your mind, and operate from that place. And people are very curious. They're very excited once they understand it. If they are already a bit conscious and they're ready to learn, you're going to see a surge for these types of trainings and courses and retreats, and people really understanding like, wow, this is what it's all about. Giving them new perspectives on getting out of fear and lack. That's what I hope to do with this show. There are some people who seem to think that you are using your platform irresponsibly if you're not spreading the fear. It's a very interesting thing I've picked up on lately, response to a few posts I've made. And, man, because people are locked in there. It's all they see. It's all they see everywhere is the fear, is the lack. And man, I'll tell you, that fear is part of the program. That's the dark program. And you want to flip. You want to flip to the light, flip to the program of the light. You want to start seeing things from that way. Otherwise, you're going to have a really tough time. A lot of you are going through transitions right now that you are probably here to then teach to others, and using this time to make note of what's working for you, share what's working for you, even in real time, and be sharing that gift with others. A lot of that personal meaning and life purpose stuff is coming up now more than ever. Many of you have heard me talk about Gay Hendricks' book, The Big Leap, for years. Now, he had a follow-up book, which had a few gems in it. It was called The Joy of Genius. And he shares this from the Gospel of Thomas, this quote, "If you bring forth what is within you, what you bring forth will save you. If you do not bring forth what is within you, what you do not bring forth will destroy you." I think that is just so important right now. So many people are sitting there and they have these little thoughts or flashes in their mind of what they really should be doing, or what they really should be saying, or making changes they've wanted to make for years. Now is the time. If there was ever a time for you to step into who you wanted to be and what you wanted to do and what you wanted to have, it is now, because the energies are here to support you. So make the notes, take the course, journal about it, start the vision board, start the plan, because you need to act as if it's already there. And that is the 5D thinking, coming at from the place that it is done, we are here, and the 3D universe is catching up. We could go so deep on this stuff. I love it, but that's where I'm going to leave that point, okay? Now, we're going to move into now some cautions and concerns, and I don't want to freak some of you people out, but there's some... It is what it is. If you're watching the news, you're freaked out already, so you're going to be freaked out somewhere. But first, there's going to be continued turbulence. Okay, this should be no surprise, especially during January, and continued debate around the election, and just crazy stuff could be happening. And there are, if you're following mainstream, you may have no idea what's going on, but there are legal channels right now for delay, for denial, for debate. We don't know what's going to happen. So all you know is that some people are going to be very pissed, and that could erupt into unrest in major cities. So not a bad time if you are in an area this has happened before. to take a trip out of town. Everyone from New York loves going to Florida. Arizona, we can't step outside without bumping into someone from California who's visiting or buying a home. Brett right now is looking for a house for a friend of his from France, and everywhere he's going, as soon as the open house is there, there's like 8 couples. He's like, are you kidding me? It's a great time in some areas for real estate, bad time in some others. So here's the deal with the unrest, what I'm saying. If there's one thing last year taught us, it's just good sense to always be ready for some type of, quote, storm. When I grew up in the Northeast, we'd always have a stock pantry for winter storms, things like that. Well, we all need this now. Have food and supplies on hand for another potential lockdown, maybe. I sadly see more of these things in the future for different reasons. The stocked pantry is something you should all have at all times anyway in today's world. So hit up Costco. Don't forget the toilet paper. Okay. And I was talking with a friend about it because I always just felt like having that was a negative thing. Because I'm like, well, that means I'm planning for a bad thing to happen. Maybe some of you feel that way. I was like, I don't know if that's bad vibe. And she's the opposite. And she's kind of one of those spiritual people that just floats off the ground and all day and, wears tunics and those types of things. And she said, no, it's about you feeling safe no matter what happens. I'm like, ooh. And we did a giant shop at Costco. I ordered a bunch of stuff. And, there is a nice feeling to that if you didn't have to leave the house for a week or 2, you would be fine. Maybe bored with your cuisine, but you'd be fine. And so, just think about it. Have more than 2 cans of corn in the pantry. When I moved in this house with Brett, Brett and I had both lived single so long. He was the bachelor, I was the bachelorette lifestyle. You run to the store every day and just buy what you're going to eat. You can't do that these days, right? Okay, so just, stock the pantry, get the toilet paper, be prepared. You don't want what happened this year to happen again. I'll never forget that feeling when you first walked into a store and saw empty shelves. And usually these are pictures you'd see in like Russia. They always have in the news the picture of the poor woman going in to buy the last loaf of bread. And you started to see that here, and because of the supply chain disruption alone. And you realize, yeah, okay, it's time. Number 2 is increased orders and mandates. Increased lockdowns. I don't see any of this letting up. Okay. So what I see, the great thing about this as a prediction. Okay, so the great thing about this is, first of all, people are getting pissed now. People are getting tired and pissed because in many areas, they're like, look, there's no evidence this is helping. It's hurting more than it's helping. Even health experts, I think the World Health Organization finally came out a month or 2 ago and was like, the lockdowns are doing more harm than good. And it probably depends on the country, what works best, but people are getting tired and they're getting upset. So should our participation in more mandates and orders be forced upon us? What I predict is you are going to see entire communities start to separate and split off from the mainstream. We are going to start deciding how we want to live, how we want to work, how we want to be. And we're going to bond together to form our own autonomous communities and way of life. And what's amazing is you see hints of this already. And if you're not following along with me, here's a good example. So with the educational breakdown, you've heard some parents forming their own homeschool pods, right? They decide to operate independent of the school system entirely or work along with the school system, and they hire a teacher and create their own solution. Not only to avoid all the current weirdness in schools, right? And just are we in, are we out, what's going on? But to give the kids some sense of normalcy with other children, right? Masks off, human interaction. The children need that. I really see this affecting the children in just a way that just brings me to tears. Also, some parents are probably going to want to do this to protect their kids from more forced medical mandates. So, for example, New York City is now forcing public school students of a certain age to undergo ongoing COVID testing, like every 2 weeks or something. And just so all these things are going to start happening. They're going to finally, everyone's got their line, right? Like you draw the line. You're like, nah, So for some of us, it was earlier. For some of us, it's later. And for all of us, it's different things. But you're going to see little things that just like the straw that broke the camel's back, be like, all right, you know what? We thought about this for years and we're doing it. So think about that transition with education. Now think about that applied to shopping. Maybe people would be creating their own farm co-ops or farmers markets or ways they want to shop, right? Health services. Maybe they get to gather together and create their own health services in their own communities and say, we're not playing along with all this stuff. I mean, do you feel how exciting this could be? It really could be this golden age that people are talking about. And a lot of us don't see that light yet. But when you think of it this way, it is really, really exciting. I also foresee decreasing reliability on our public services. Now, this has been talked about for years. Think about in the US here especially, how outdated our power grid is, and especially in certain areas of the country, whether it's simply breaking down or it's old, right? California, all the wildfires and just, there's a lot of issues. Or it's been proven to be easy to hack into, which is even more scary. So it's not neurotic to plan for prolonged power outages. Some of you are used to this already, especially in California, where they'll just turn it off when they feel like it. When they think it's going to help the power grid or something like that. So make sure you're stocked up, batteries, lanterns, flashlights, all that. There are even really cool solar generators now that you can power your devices off, like a small fridge and your laptop and phones. And there's all kinds out there. I got mine from a company called Jackery, and it's awesome. And, you just want to have backups. So, I know a lot of you are the fans of the electric car. We always have one of our cars is a plug-in electric hybrid, but we want the other one to run on gas. Why? Well, if the grid goes down, we want a car we can use. And you know what? Vice versa. Let's say the grid's fine, but the gas stations run dry. Then we have a car we can use then. The new rule now is you don't want one way of doing anything. You always want more than one way of getting something, doing something. Just start thinking that way, that, in multiple solutions. We will sadly see an increasing gap in just about everything as far as equality. Incomes, freedoms, accessibility to education and resources. Money will not be about luxury in the next decade. It's going to be about freedom. And we've always said that, right? Money's freedom, but we kind of meant time freedom or work at the beach or, no. I mean, literally your freedom, your well-being. If you want to hear more about the inequality issue, I talked about that on the Big Mess in the Middle episode. It was the first episode in September. If you want to go back and listen to that, I'll put a link in the show notes. But I walked through each category and really where these inequalities you're going to see a lot more of. For a while, you're going to see more accelerated division and separateness. That's another fun thing coming up the pike. This has really bothered me this year. Seeing people choose sides and say, well, if you believe A, then you must believe B, C, and D. And if you believe X, then you also believe Y and Z. So I hate you. And oh my gosh, people, life is not like that. Life is not just these two categories. I hope the whole bipartisan system blows up, by the way. I don't fit into a particular category, but I've been learning a bit more about populism. And that's where, like, you're saying, this all sucks. Like, you're all nuts. The politicians are all corrupt, and this thing has to be reinvented. That's kind of where I stand right now at this very moment, recording this. But because people are locked into these buckets that I know that they believe some things, but how could you believe all those things in that bucket, really? And some of them are mismatched, and it just doesn't make sense. Doesn't make sense. And then social media came around and was supposed to bring us together, but it's divided us even more, which leads me to increased censorship. You are going to see more of that on the main platforms because it's very obvious that they want to control the narrative. It's at levels I haven't seen in this lifetime. It's getting worse, too. It's leading people to start their own segmented platforms or go to others, sadly, where they'll continue to live in their own echo chambers with people who think the same way. It's gonna just make it worse. And the opportunity here, though, is especially those who are being censored, is to drive traffic to their own media or membership sites. I'm seeing people do this. So, for example, some people I follow in the health field who have tried to speak out in a few issues they're very concerned about and have some credible information to share, they've been deplatformed. Not just their posts taken down, I mean, they have been removed from the social media. Their entire account that they've had for years and years and years and years is gone. It's gone. So what are they doing? They're saying, hey, come to my site or come over here. And also, I'm going to start a membership. And, some of them are doing well with it because I think right now, even if you could say, oh, I was banned from, people were like, woo, what'd you say? Well, I'm going to come listen. It's exciting. So it's, I'm seeing so many people have to do this because they're just not even allowed to post information you would think would just be sharing what's going on right now in the world. Increased AI has been coming for a long time, artificial intelligence, tracking, facial recognition, radical dependence on our devices until we say no more. These days, I'll tell you, when I go into a restaurant, I often leave my phone in the car because I would like a real printed menu. And I don't want to scan a QR code and hunch over and squint at a 5-inch screen to see which salad I want to order. Then I need to get my glasses out. And I'm going out for an in-person experience. I don't want to feel like I'm home ordering DoorDash. We've had enough of that. And the restaurants that Brett and I love to go to now, we like the local ones who still treat you like a human being, that, they play by the rules they need to in our region. But man, it feels like home. It just feels like a wonderful place where you're welcomed. And they have the experience is nice. They still have the candle on the table for you, They're not wearing bright blue gloves. Maybe the gloves are black, or they just try to be a little more, a little more discreet, Those opportunities, I'm jumping ahead, but like giving people a sense of normalcy, they will come. They will come. I think so many people are worried about looking like they're trying so hard that they're actually losing customers and clients. It depends what area of the country you're in. And what your market is looking for, which is important. I'll get to that right now as I move into Q&A. We got a lot of great questions. Thank you so much for responding on Instagram and Facebook especially. By the way, Instagram's really where I am mostly now. I'm on Facebook because a lot of you are, but I personally am the one using Instagram. And, if you want to write me there or ping me or let me know how you like the show, I would love to hear from you. And please, if you could share this show. If you like this show, I love when you leave a comment, but just share it. Share it to your stories on Instagram, share it on Facebook. Say, hey, this was really interesting. I would appreciate it because I think no one's having these conversations. Everyone's still like, 10 tips to your best year ever and 26 ways to market. And I just think all of you are a little more intelligent, that you need some other information as well. You need some different perspectives to make your own decisions, to do critical thinking. And, you can learn a lot of that stuff elsewhere, but I love this stuff. So if you'd like more of this, let me know, because I'll do a whole other show. I've been toying with it. All right, Q&A. This first one is from Halo Avalon Glastonbury. She sounds a little wiki-wacky. Ooh, I like it. I'd love to hear anything that comes from the depths of your heart wisdom. It's always inspirational and thought-provoking. Thank you. And I'm particularly interested in your perception of conscious 5D specialist experience businesses, bricks and mortar businesses that offer higher consciousness experience. Thank you. I think that's really interesting. As I mentioned before, I think the more personal and spiritual and human you go now, and you create your experiences to be for people now, it's the better. You'll stand out night and day. It's a 180-degree difference. It's one of the reasons when I created the trust and I'm like, we are absolutely doing live events. This is not a Zoom group. And those women, God bless them, they got on a plane and came in September. Most of them came. If they could come, I think if they were able to travel, I think all but one made the trip. They're like, I wouldn't miss this for the world because the energy is different. Humans need to gather. If you can create something around that, and especially helping them with this ascension process and navigate through it, I think there would be great demand for that. I think that's a winning category. The how may be changing, right? We don't know what's going to happen with online marketing. That's why I'm not even going to marketing right now on this call. So if you wrote a question about that, sorry, I think there are one or two that I put aside for another show because we don't know what's going to happen with a lot of these technologies. Marketing principles won't change. So, and a marketing principle that won't change is that if you can be different, what is your unique selling proposition? What's your USP? It's that in-person process. So start locally, start with your community, start with your city. There will be demand for this. It may start small, but man, people are going to have to wake up because they're going to have to wake up or they're going to get shaken up. Megan Ann, 1978, would love to hear your business outlook for 2021, both for small and large businesses. For me, working in corporate, chaos has created opportunity, but I certainly recognize that many in small biz Main Street have not been so fortunate. Yeah, let's talk about that for a minute. They're the ones who really need our help. When you look at small business owners, and I mean the real Main Street types, like your local restaurants, bars, shops, salons, smaller grocery stores, dry cleaner, the fitness studio, those are the ones most in trouble right now. And it really pains me I don't see more people speaking out about this. What you may not know is that so many are resisting what's going on and succeeding, but they won't cover that on the mainstream news. So from what I understand, there's some people who are really into the legal process. They're really into the Constitution. They're like, the government technically can't do this and there's ways to fight it. And I don't understand all that. But people aren't even trying. They aren't even saying, how could I be open? They aren't looking at the rules and saying, okay, where's my way? Where's my way through this? They're just rolling over and waiting for their stimulus check. People are going to be in trouble. I mean, there's not magic money on trees coming. They've got to figure something out. And I'm hoping this next season, they'll be ready. They'll be ready. So here's my thing. In the areas where it doesn't make sense to be locked down, where there's no proof that these are working, there's no evidence that this is the right thing to do and people are suffering. Look, don't wait for the government to figure this out. You are going to have to figure it out. You are going to have to fight. Otherwise, this will never end. And maybe the way out is a bit more creative than the usual path. Some businesses are just saying, no, I'm not shutting down. But other businesses are getting a little creative. Maybe they could add or subtract a service or a product offering to become essential. Maybe different businesses in town could band together to present themselves as a different kind of business, right? That would be essential. And you see how I'm thinking? I'm not telling you exactly to do that, but just start thinking creative. Go, what is the way? How, not can I, but how can I? That's how I'd love to see more business owners think. In San Diego, this was in the news a few weeks ago. This is how sad it's gotten. So they had a big lockdown down there. I don't remember all the details or dates, but there was actually a strip club that was able to avoid the lockdown. Meanwhile, there's restaurants being shut down, like everywhere being shut down. It was some freedom of speech thing. So man, that just pushed some restaurant owners over the edge. And they're like, you know what? Okay, we've got to fight this then. They're letting a strip club stay open, but we're all having to shut down. We can't feed our families, like just ridiculous stuff. And they fought it. And I think then it went back and forth. And I don't remember where it landed, but I just loved seeing the fight. I think that they won, some portion of the businesses won in some capacity, but there's going to be some that just pushes you so far. And you're like, that is it. That is absolutely it. My kids can't go to school, but a strip club's open. Okay. Like nothing's making sense. When nothing makes sense, that's when that's your chance. That is your chance. Okay. Lisa Davis, 720. I have an entrepreneurial spirit and a sales advisory role where I can semi-create my own path as far as sales and marketing and client experience is concerned. Allie, would love to hear ideas and take advantage of current times to take my income to the next level. Marketing and sales, always going to be in demand. Always. You will be fine. Really show them what you could do at your company. Or, man, now's the time to move companies. If they need sales help, like, you will always be fine. If you want to be entrepreneurial, you can go teach people how to do what you do or start a team. One of the biggest pain points for the women that I personally work with is they're finding and creating and grooming a great sales team for their business. So you have nothing to worry about, hon. Inspiration Travel Official, where do you see luxury travel industry heading this year? We would all like to reignite our businesses if these lockdowns ever stop. And ASA Vova wants to know trends in marketing to high-level clients and your expectations for the business climate of 2021. So I lumped those two together because we're talking about high-level, high market. High market, luxury market, you're going to have two choices going forward: luxury market or the bottom. There is going to be no more middle. The grotesque inequities we've seen in income are only widening and widening and widening. Now, the past 10 years, the top was bigger than the bottom. Yeah, I don't know about that, but you're going to see more of that separation. So this is from a business perspective. If you were going to go after a market, you want to go after the market who can afford to hire you, to work with you. So that's there by itself as a great factor. But man, luxury, like if you can afford that type of travel, that's the only way you're going to want to travel going forward. When you see what they're doing now and you're on these planes with these people and everyone's wearing masks and it looks gross. It looks gross. Put me in a private plane, no masks, flying to a private house where I can be away from everybody and feel like things are normal. I think people will pay more to feel normal. I want a vacation like it's 2018. So maybe that's your tagline. Like, I want it to feel like going back in time. And so, think about that. Think about that the wealthy will pay to have those experiences. I think that's going to be the best game in town. Honestly, maybe someone can do something like that at different levels, but really, they were forecasting even years ago the middle class was disappearing, and now when you look at what's happening, you have the white collar people who can work at home and have internet businesses and do all this stuff, and then you have the people that can't, and the ones hit really hard. Those are the ones I'm just devastated for. That's why that's who the lockdowns hurt the most of all. Right. So there's so many layers and concerns for everything we're talking about, so it's hard for me to not go there, but let's bring it back to your question though. Luxury travel? Abso-freaking-lutely. Abso-freaking-lutely. The questions are maybe the timing, the how, maybe you have to shift markets to people in certain areas of the country or the world, work with a few exclusive properties maybe. You may have to kind of rejiggle your model a bit, but that'll be there. Beachy Boho Life says, your business instincts and thoughts for 2021, tips and rituals for how you're staying centered and positive going into next year. I don't even know what to tell you. I think it was a wake-up call for me that I wasn't spending time alone. And that's when I look back and realize when I get the most anxious, when I get the most uncertain, is when I haven't been alone and had my time with God. And that can mean whatever you'd like it to mean. So for me, I realize, I like the gym I go to. It's nice, but maybe I need more walks out in nature again. I need to do some hiking because at home now, there's just so much going on with the kids here and my employees are back, which I'm glad. I need someone else to talk to besides Brett. God love him. And I need that time. So I'm going to put that on my schedule again because otherwise I just can spiral. Maybe some of you can relate. I will just spiral. So that alone time where I am anchoring into what I intended to create. And I in the last show I shared, I kind of lost that. And I was so glad to hear, I mentioned her name in the last show, so glad to hear Lori Ladd talk about this on one of her Instagram lives. She's the spiritual teacher, and I don't resonate with a lot of people, but I listened to hers and I was like, oh my God. So there's one she posted, I believe it was on January 4th or maybe the night before, and it was on current energies. And I hadn't even listened to it before I recorded the show. And I was talking about that exact thing and thinking, wow, she just really put into words what I've been struggling with, was like staying so anchored into my vision and saying, you know what? No, this is being created. It's messy outside right now, and that has nothing to do with it. It's happening. It's happened. It's happened, and it's here. I think that's the best way we can tune in going forward. Okay, we got just a few more, and then we'll wrap it up. I know this was a long show, but I hope you're still with me. Jean Christensen writes, hi, Allie. Love to hear your thoughts on diversity and inclusion. I feel like there's so much noise out there, everyone jumping on the bandwagon, but no real action plan. What do you think? Well, this was a year a lot came at us, wasn't it? I have a colleague and past client and now trust member I'd love to recommend on this topic for those of you who are running businesses and would like to, look at what can I implement. Her name's Chris Plackey. We also had her on the show last year. And she works with female CEOs, and this topic is one that she really hits hard with them from the start of their work together. She has pulled in an expert on her team. She makes sure her clients understand what they should do and need to do, and they get a plan to do it. So I'm sure there's a lot of other resources out there, but that's one I'm very familiar with because Chris and I work together all the time. So I'm going to recommend Chris on that one. But I'm going to echo that I agree. I think this was a year where a lot of people jumped on just talking about things and were worried about the being seen talking about it. Is that called the virtue signaling, or is that something else? I'm not sure anymore. Versus the, going back and sitting down with the team going like, what should we be doing? Are we getting the diversity we should have in our clientele and our groups? Are we getting the diversity we should have in our team? And it's definitely something I think we're figuring out as we go. The great thing is there's so many great resources on this now. I don't feel too qualified to comment on a plan, but Chris is a great option. This is a huge biz op, by the way, for those of you who are experts in this area. There are companies who really need this stuff. And, one of my clients is a high-level corporate consultant, and she's found now the work she does in grooming leaders to move up into the C-suite is now perfect at this time for topics like this. And so for all of us, there's usually a way we can align what we're doing with our business and know we're making an impact. It may not be something we're posting on Instagram, but we're making an impact in our own way. One Wise Life says, do you think as a mom that finding other school options, K-12, is a necessary investment as we head into 2021? Yes, and yes. But here's the thing, it doesn't need to be expensive. I've seen some people online talking about homeschooling on a budget. You don't need to go hire a teacher for this stuff. There's so much stuff. When we started really looking, and I believe I mentioned this on the last show, I was blown away by all the options. In fact, overwhelmed. I thought maybe you'd find 2 or 3 things, and there's different philosophies and curriculums, and listen to the last show for what I talked about. I gave myself permission for this year for things to be messy and different. And as long as those kids are loved and happy and can read and write and do some math, I think it was a good year. So the exciting thing, like I mentioned, is I think we're going to be creating our own systems now. And now this is your opportunity to do this. So it's actually such a great time. I think even you're going to see people doing this. This isn't just a high income option. I predict you're going to see some of the lower income families just getting so fed up with this, just saying, no, you're not hooking my kid up to a device all day like some AI specimen. I think you're going to see people, moms are going to start getting pissed from every type of situation. So, in the high end, maybe we'll be creating our own entrepreneurial, free thinking schools. On the low end, workbooks and Aunt Martha coming over a few mornings a week, like that could do it, pulling together with some of the other moms. I don't know. I think it's something to look into. Jennifer Curtin, interested in your opinion on the best investment strategy as things change. I have investments in real estate stock, but wondering if market's safe moving forward. We got another question from Lake Bell. Love to hear your thoughts on the stock market, where to move around, cut losses in this climate. But what I will comment on is I just think, you never want all your eggs in one basket. And so it's also a great time to look at how can I make money besides my business, right? So you're thinking the right way. I have some clients doing Michelle Bosch, her land flipping program. I have clients that are into Bitcoin. I have clients that are into gold. I have clients with gold bars in their house. And I mean, there's so much. And it's just not something I feel like I even have advice on right now, but don't get all your eggs in one basket. I would just have different, like I said before, worst thing that you could do right now is have one way of doing anything. I'm going to say even one type of currency, one type of investment. You want to make sure you're spread out a bit. Sally Krawcheck, we're having her as a guest coming up on a trust special advisor session. And she ran some of the big banks on Wall Street. She is just a powerhouse. So I'm excited to have her for a private session with us. We're going to grill her on everything going on and what we should be doing. So hopefully I can share a few of those tips when we come out of that session in a few weeks. Annette Naif, I have many opinions on this as it's my life as an event producer, but where do you see events going in the coming year? Oh, they're going to want live, hun. This is the last question I'll wrap up with. They're going to want live so badly, so badly. When people walked into that room at the trust meeting, they could not wait to hold hands, to hug, to talk to each other, to sit in groups and chat. Like it's going to be such a bounce back. It's going to be so needed. You're going to see this huge rebound. People are going to be craving it. That being said, there may be limitations that we'll have to work around, right? It's maybe smaller events, but maybe in the old days, we do these big conferences. I have a feeling now we'll do smaller regional conferences, maybe more of a tour like the old days, the old road shows, but we're going to have a lot of fun and we'll get back there. So you're in good place. You're in a good place. Thank you for joining me for this. This was a long one, but I had a lot to get through. Let me know if you'd like more of this. I'm thinking of so many ideas, adding on a Q&A show each week, maybe, or doing a whole separate series on some of this heavier stuff and critical thinking. And so let me know. If you're listening to the show, I really do want to hear from you. I appreciate it. Instagram's the best place to drop me a line. And a quick reminder, again, if you're in the 7 or 8 figure range, or you know someone who is, and these kinds of conversations is something that they would love, and they'd love to come in and speak with a group of women that are at just a higher level, then go to jointhetrust.org. We would love to have you. We have an event coming up in Miami with Kara Golden, who created Hint Water and all those products, $150 million company. She's just a rock star. I can't wait to get her in the room, and everyone's going to crowd around her and ask her questions and just stay positive, stay true, hold the vision hold the vision you had the beginning of last year. Do you remember we went into that 2020 and it was going to be so magical and so amazing? And then it got wonky, and it's okay. The vision's still there. It lost you. You have to grab that back again. Come from there. Take care, and I'll see you in the next episode. We're going to get back to some fantastic guests, and drop me a note on Instagram. Subscribe if you haven't subscribed before. Leave a review, all that jazz. I just really appreciate you listening. Thank you. God bless. Thank you for joining me for this episode of Glambition Radio. If you enjoyed the show, make sure you subscribe so you automatically get my new shows every week. Also, I'd love if you left us a review so more women like you can discover us. We're on Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, Spotify, Pandora, and other major platforms. And I'd love to hear from you personally. Come join the conversation on social. Instagram is my happy place lately, and that's Allie Brown Official, but you can find links to my other platforms at alliebrown.com. Glambition Radio is the elevated conversation for women leaders, and I'm honored you tuned in.